and we are live.
Welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Hagir Show. My name is Heather McDonald. I am your co-host. Hagir and I are so thankful that you are here. We're so thankful for your support, for your participation, and your questions every week. This week, we have an outstanding show. We are joined today by Tim DeFoor. He is our Auditor General here in Pennsylvania, and he is here to answer questions about what is an Auditor General? What kind of things does he do in his job? How is that relevant to our lives? And to tell us a little bit about his journey. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Heather, Hagir, thank you for having me. It's without a doubt, it's a pleasure. Hagir is a central Pennsylvania, I'll go say Pennsylvania treasure.
Yes, she is.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about perseverance, a person that is just a good and decent person. When she, when she asked me to do the show, I said, "Oh, just let me know when." Just let me know
yes.
when. Not a person that you want to say no to. So you find the time, and Heather, it's a pleasure meeting you. I watched it so regularly. I believe this is the first time me and you have actually met. So
it is, yes. Yeah, we're thrilled to have you. And I mean, you and I could sit here and talk about Hagir all day. She is a gem, and she's the type of person that people will move mountains for. So we're glad that you're here. And I want to start out this is kind of a silly question, but how do I address you? Are you Auditor General? Are you General? Because that would be pretty cool. Or General. That's really.
Yeah. So it's taken some getting used to hearing that.
Yeah.
But you can call me General. You can call me Tim.
No, I'm going to go with General. That's awesome. I would love that. That's a very cool title. So typically we start chronologically. We go all the way back to the beginning and we work our way forward. But with you, I want people to leave here having a working knowledge about what being an Auditor General is, how that affects their lives. If nothing else, I need them to understand the importance of this and the fact that you actually represent all Pennsylvanians. So give us a rundown about what is an Auditor General, how do you spend your days, and how would that come to have an impact on everyday people?
Well, look at the Auditor General this way, and the term that I hear used quite often is the state's fiscal watchdog. As far as with government dollars coming into the Commonwealth, dollars leaving the Commonwealth, going to different state departments, different businesses, or different types of entities, those are taxpayer dollars, and it is my responsibility by the way of performing audits to assure that those dollars are being spent in which the way that either the governor's office or our legislature have stated which they are to be spent. So I'm the one assuring that there is integrity with regards to how our tax dollars are in fact being spent.
Give us some context. Like, how many tax dollars are we talking?
As far as the state budget, I want to say, and I'm probably wrong, anywhere in the neighborhood of like maybe around 30-40 billion for the state budget. And so that's 30-40 billion that my office is responsible to assure that it's spent the way that it's spent. So it's not necessarily, a few $100,000 or even a few million. That sounds weird to say, but those are all the tax dollars that we're responsible for. Now, you do have other entities that also do other investigations as well, but primarily my job is to ensure that those tax dollars. And it's kind of funny that you asked the question, because right now in the Hill, the legislature is in session. And one of the things they're going to be talking about is our budget, which is to be passed by law by the end of this month.
This is kind of a side question, but does that budget pay for your office?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And so as the Auditor General, does your office get to choose what you guys audit? So, I mean, I would think that if I'm a Pennsylvanian, I would love knowing that my Auditor General was working for me, because they're actually watching my tax dollars. They're actually watching all of that. So is there like a list of things that you guys audit every year and then you add things on top of it, or is it purely up to your discretion?
Well, it's a combination of both, actually. So we do have those legislative required audits. And those would be, for example, of other governmental entities, such as different counties, different elected officials in different counties, or district magistrates, and also local governments, and our pension plans and our volunteer fire department. So those are all audits in which we are legally obligated to perform. All the other audits, and for the most part, that could be school audits, and also other types of performance audits with regards to any other issues with tax dollars are involved. We would do audits of those as well, and that could be a combination of financial audits and/or performance audits.
And I know Heather is interested in knowing about the job, but I'm interested in knowing about Tim. You are, first of all, thank you for whatever you said at the beginning. It really filled my heart with joy to hear it coming from you, especially you. You always hold a special place in my heart. And I know when we start doing this, because of the difference in our political affiliation, but this is a testament that there are good people from every and each party, and we cannot think about eliminating someone from our life or not having them because of differences. You are an amazing human being. You are good at your job. You were good at your previous job, and you had a life full of an inspiration. To me, you are a role model, and I want my son to grow up looking at you and wanting to be like you. You're successful, and I want to hear about that. I want to hear about your upbringing, how you grew up, and how did you become this amazing man?
Here's the thing, and I, God bless you, I appreciate that. And even, and like you said, even though we may have our political differences, and sometimes I admit, for me, sometimes my emotions get the best of me, but I'm learning to curb that, to say not everybody's going to believe in everything that you do, but they still respect you as a person. As far as with me, to be perfectly honest, I never aspired to get here. I never aspired to run for public office. So if you could write a book about my life's journey from my beginnings to where I am now, you would ask a question, and that question would ask a question, and that question would be, how did a shy kid from suburban Harrisburg, PA, who hated math, end up being Pennsylvania's 52nd Auditor General?
Hold on, you hated math? I thought I knew you.
Hated math. I absolutely, and not only did I hate math, I was bad at it. I was bad at it. So,
my daughter should hear this because she hates math.
Well, and there's a way that I overcame that. So again, growing up, one of the things that we would do as a family, we would go visit relatives in Ohio, go for family reunions. And one of my uncles, my Uncle Robert, was a union shop steward for a Chevrolet plant in Lordstown, Ohio. And my family background, I come from a family of teachers, nurses, coal miners, auto workers, and steel workers from Northern Ohio. So we're pretty much spread all over the place. But growing up, when we would go to visit my uncle for family reunions, people from the auto plant would come over to see him, and I would constantly hear them, talk about what was going on the job, but also they would joke about how the government was spending their money. And I was a little kid hearing this, and I used to say, yeah, how does government spend my mom and dad's tax dollars? So then that's something that always stuck with me. So as an adult, when I finally, realized what I wanted to do, I said that I want to make sure that tax dollars are being spent properly. And that was something that was impactful to me as a kid. But there was one problem. was bad at math. So as I'm going through my career, I'm in college, and in order to get my bachelor's degree, I knew that I had to take an algebra course to graduate. So I said, all right, let me build up to it. So what I ended up doing is I took a finite math class, and the professor taught the beginning of the class with a deck of cards and dice. So think about this. I know exactly, that was my reaction initially. So think about this. A deck of cards, you take out the jokers. There's 52 cards in a deck. And oddly enough, I'm the 52nd Auditor General, so imagine that. What a coincidence. So you go in the deck of cards. What are the odds that you pull out an ace of hearts? 1 in 52. So I'm like, okay. And you have a dice, one dice. What are the odds that you roll a 6? 1 in 6. So that's how we began teaching the class. And what that did for me, I then realized that the numbers weren't these big, bad, scary things, that they represented something. And it was broken down into a concept in which I could understand it. And from then I embraced math. And because of that, I got into statistics. And then that which led to accounting and ultimately to other things. And so that's where that began. And I, from there, I then went to the Inspector General's office where I investigated government fraud, waste, and abuse. Then to the Attorney General's office where I investigated healthcare fraud, particularly in the and with the government-sponsored healthcare programs, Medicaid, Medicare, and prescription drug diversion, and also did the same thing in the private sector, where I also was responsible for auditing the auditors to ensure that the auditors, which was hired by the federal government, that they were doing the job which they're contracted to do, and that the firms that had these contracts with the federal government, that they had on staff the proper people with the proper experience and credentials to do the job. So all that led to me ultimately running for Dauphin County Controller, and I was one of those persons. And I'm very sincere when I say I never wanted to get involved with politics, never. So, but in 2015, I was asked to run for Dauphin County Controller, and initially I said no because I didn't want to get involved with politics. But I started thinking about a couple of things. I started thinking about the work that I loved, and that was auditing and also fraud investigation with regards to how our taxpaying dollars are being spent, but also it would give me an opportunity to be more involved with the community. So I did that, and I ran in 2016, and I ended up becoming the first African American in the history of Dauphin County to be elected as a row officer. And so I'm there. I then run for re-election 4 years later unopposed, and I'm approached about running for Auditor General. And again, that's statewide, COVID, everything else that's happening nationwide, I'm not going to do it. And then I thought about, again, the same thing, being able to take what I have learned on the county level and apply that statewide, and also be more of an asset to some of the things, try to be somebody that people can look up to throughout the entire Commonwealth. And so I then ran, and here I am today talking to you.
Here you are.
I've been in office.
And I'm going to have to tell you, we spend maybe Heather, half an hour trying to write just like simple words, because the Facebook in a post and a flyer, you have limited amount of number, and I'm like, I need something that to describe, like not just success, triumph, and everything, and he's been through, and I want people to know that they can look at Timothy and see their sons one day, and see him the way I see him. Every time I look at you, I feel I am proud as a
Thank
Black
you.
woman and as a mom that I'm hoping that my son will follow your steps, because you are doing amazing. Not just, the first time we met is at Hack,
Yeah, that was
uh, you
part of it.
donate, you volunteer, you are out there, and that was many years ago, but it's like you have something about you, like your
Yeah.
demeanor, and you said you were the first African American, you were first Black man. What is significant of this for all our
Oh,
moms and young Black American kids who are growing through this unsettling
yeah.
time?
And I thank you for that. One of the things, for me is that, I, but my family always gave back to the community. And I talked about my uncle, but also my parents with the right way that they raised me. And one of the things that they did, and especially my parents were both born in the South during a time period in which some parts of the South weren't very kind to Black people. But still, my parents still maintained, um, that inner strength and a sense of dignity. And they wanted to make sure that each of their kids realized that you're important, regardless of what others may say about you. You're important. Don't ever lose who you are. And there's a time when I did. There was a time when I was extremely insecure, and where I just didn't feel that I was actually going to ever become anything in my life. I remember those lessons that my parents taught me. I mean, as a child, your parents teach you your lessons your entire life, and there's a period of time where you forget about it because and it's called being a teenager. And then as you approach some tough times as you're going into adulthood, those lessons started to come back. And one of the things that I did was I had to come to grips that, Tim, not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to always agree with you, but you're the way that you are because that's who you are. That's how God made you. Don't try to be anybody else where you're going to be miserable. And I tried to do that, become somebody else, and I was miserable. But I realized that I'm a unique person, in the same way everybody else is. We're all wired differently, and as opposed to trying to hide that, trying to change that, embrace who you are. So if I could get a T-shirt made saying "Embrace your inner weirdness," yeah, I would be talking about me.
We can make that happen.
Because that's what makes us us. And there was a period of my life where I kind of forgot about that, and I slowly but surely, one of the things that we have to do is eventually take a long, hard look at ourselves. And I remember doing it one time where there was just a period of my life where things just weren't going right, and didn't like myself. Just didn't like a lot of things that was going on. And I remember looking in the mirror, taking a long, hard look at myself, and I didn't like what I saw. And it actually took like 2 days before I could look at myself in the mirror again. That's how much I didn't like what I saw. But what that did, that changed me into the person that I am today. And by taking that long, hard look at myself, I realized the person that I needed to be. And that's where that inner confidence grew. That's where that inner strength grew. And it was because of me taking that long, hard look at myself in the mirror. That's why I feel like I'm able to handle some of the pressures of this job, and certainly some of the things that are happening politically, across the state and across the country, and maintain myself, my sense of not only of dignity, but also maintaining my principles.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think sometimes, I mean, even we sit here and we're in awe of our guests, and it's hard to imagine them not being exactly the version that they are showing up today. So, you're impressive, you're accomplished, you're all of these things, but to take the time to tell people that there was a moment when that wasn't true. So when you found yourself there, was it kind of like that look in the mirror? Was that kind of like a moment where everything then clicked? Or did you have to kind of fake it till you make it to get out of that spot?
No, I mean, because I had faked it before, and that's
Mhm.
what caused me to look in the mirror.
Mhm.
But after I looked at it, I realized that I was trying to fake it until I made it, and I wasn't being authentic. Wasn't being the person that I'm supposed to be. So, but that then began a process of me becoming that person. And once you develop, because of certain things in your life, you develop bad habits, because you're trying to impress other people. You're trying to be somebody that you're not, and it's kind of like other people controlled who you were, even though you didn't like that person that they were trying to control. So it's a process, because there's just some habits that you have to unlearn. The first thing is to learn to love yourself, and then that then begins the process. And even though I'm saying all this, there's still some things I need to work on.
Mhm.
Without a doubt, there's some things that need to work on. So the process of learning never ends. It never ends. So, but yeah, I have to say, as far as my life right now, I haven't been, regardless of what may happen tomorrow, I'm happy. But with that being said, I also realize that I still have to grow as a person.
Never done.
So, if I can ask you to give advice to a younger Timothy out there, what would have said to yourself like 20, 30 years ago, to get you through what you're going through? And can you give us just a little bit sample of, I know we talked about struggles, and I know many people are going through tough times. As
Right.
being a Black man in America nowadays, or anywhere in the world, it is not easy. It's
Yeah.
tough. And I know as a woman it's tough, but I know for men it's tough in a different way. Every, sex has its own burdens. What would you say to your younger self? And also, what are some of the struggles that you faced and you're hoping someone listening to you now to avoid, or how they can overcome it?
Yeah. What I would tell my younger self is that every one, love yourself first and foremost. Even though there may be times that maybe where you think it's difficult, number one, love yourself. But also, you're going to go through things that you're not going to expect, things that are going to be hurtful, things that are going to be painful, things that are going to make you want to think about taking your own life. But you're going to go through those things, and once you come out of that, it's almost like going through those struggles. It's almost like a test. Like, can this person handle some of the things that are coming in their direction, such as where I am now, and which an office that I never aspired to run for. But I was put through all those things in my life to prepare me for this. I firmly believe that. And so I would, tell that younger person, like, be patient, do what you need to do. Whenever some type of adversity comes your way, work through it. And because anything that happens, it's going to happen to you. It may be extremely painful, and it may be something that is that may in some ways affect you the rest of your life. Work your way through it, and you may need to seek professional help. You may need to, kind of latch on to a friend, and thank God I have a bunch of good friends. But you're going to go through some things. We all, regardless of who we are, we all go through something. But go through those things, because at the end, there's something that's great for you. You may not know what it is, but you're being prepared for something. And the only being who knows what that is God. But just work your way through it.
It is kind of incredible when you're on the other side of the struggle to realize that you almost have gratitude for those specific struggles, because they are the exact things you need in these moments in the future. And you kind of look back on it fondly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I view it. I mean, we really don't know, how our life is going to be. And, I remember talking to, I was talking to a relative of somebody who had just committed suicide. And one of the things that we're, talking about is, and this is one of the things that they said. They said that, this person had these struggles, and nobody knows how bad somebody's struggle is except that person going through the struggle. And one of the things that they said was, doing that is a permanent solution to a short-term problem. And they're saying, just work through it regardless of what you have to do. If you have to call somebody at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've received calls at 3 o'clock in the morning from friends going through some things. And that's fine. That's, I'm a friend, so I'm going to listen. But, you're going to go through stuff. I mean, if you look at all the great people in my life, and great people in history, they've all at one point or another, they've all struggled with something. So, but they've all managed to work through it as well.
So thinking about all of that, just years worth of becoming who you are, becoming and showing up as the way that you want to show up, becoming one of the first African Americans to be, I mean, that was in 2015 that we were still making history.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah, that's incredible. So all of that all together, bring me to what you were feeling and what it was like on inauguration or when you were being sworn in. I remember it was still COVID, so we were all watching from home.
Oh, you mean for this office, you mean?
Yes,
So
yes, for now.
That was this year when I was sworn in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So take us to that day. What did it feel like? It was a beautiful setting. You had a beautiful day. I remember your speech was wonderful. What were you feeling like whenever that was happening?
I was numb. It was surreal.
Yeah.
It was just surreal. And so I didn't get too carried away, didn't get too emotional. I have this coping mechanism where I just focus on what I need to do. So that's what I did. I made sure that as far as acknowledging my mother, that everybody, realized that was heartfelt, and it truly was. Because if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. But so I just focused on just what I needed to do, because it at the time it didn't seem like it was happening. And even going back to the election, when I found out that I won, it was just an unbelievable feeling. And whenever every morning when I walk into this office, you can see the office behind me. I just look around, just said, wow. But I also realized that I have a job to do. So, but it's pretty incredible. And if a shy kid who hated math can do this, imagine what some other shy kid who may hate math and English can do.
Mm-hmm.
May think so. There may be some people out there who are bad students, and I wasn't the best student in high school. Went to Hack, wasn't the best student at Hack either. But that because the help of some professors, it changed things around. So it doesn't matter who you are, you still have an opportunity for greatness, but you just have to understand that there's just certain things that I need to do.
Do tell about how can someone change your life, because I have the same story. And surprisingly, that hack, and I'm putting a shout out to Dr. Iski and hack, but that's another thing. Can you talk to us about this? And after it, there is a picture that stuck in my head from the day I saw that picture until this moment, that you being sworn and your mom was there. You remember that one? That was your previous election.
Yep. So each of my 3 elections, my mom swore me in all 3. The when I first went for Dauphin County Controller, when I ran for re-election, and also for Auditor General. And I couldn't think of anybody else who I would want to do that. And as far as for hack, look, I mean, I have an associate's degree, bachelor's degree, and a master's degree in hack. I mean, I can't thank that place enough for what it's done for me. As far as education, that's where the confidence that I started to get that I could even get a bachelor's degree. Because at one point I didn't think I was smart enough to even get a bachelor's degree, but I was challenged academically at it. And I'm like, I want to do this, and I end up, getting my associate's degree, end up going to Pitt, getting my bachelor's degree at Pitt, and then my master's degree at Harrisburg University. But as far as the confidence to be a good student, that started at Hack by being challenged by a professor. And that's why I'm so passionate about Hack and what it's done for me. And if it's done that for me, it can do that to others as well. So I went from being a bad student initially at Hack to, I remember taking a grad school class. And I remember I got a B+ in the class, a graduate class. I was mad for 3 months because I got a B+. I mean, I deserved it, but at the end I got kind of lazy. I should have had an A+, but I got kind of lazy. And so I was mad for 3 months because I got a B+. So I went from being not a good student at Hack to being mad for 3 months because I got a B+ in the graduate level class.
You know what? I think that the best part of Hack is the diversity of its fans. The fact that every person that goes there leaves absolutely raving and changed by it. And the fact that it helps this incredible swath of people that otherwise wouldn't have something in common. But it absolutely has that common denominator where, it puts something in you where you do see something in yourself. And you do know you do have something bigger, and then you'll be talking about a B+ years later.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would be surprised how many business leaders and also political leaders are alumnus of Hack. I was surprised, and I started finding out, once I got, because I was always bragging about Hack. Everybody, always posted stuff on Facebook. Did this with Hack, did that with Hack. And it's amazing that people would come up to me, elected officials on a county level and statewide level, saying that I went to Hack too. I'm like, good. I said the Hack Foundation could use you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you think? I was trying to think of when you were talking, and you were talking about being the auditor of the auditors. I was thinking, what kind of person would make the King Supreme Auditor? I assume that you have to have a really certain sense of fairness, a certain sense of curiosity, tenacity. I think that you'd have to have a stick to it witness. Are those things that you would describe yourself as having?
Those are pretty fair. And don't expect to get a lot of Christmas cards, birthday cards, or invited to the party.
Do you ever get pushback?
Yeah.
From audit?
So if there's one thing that an auditor hates, and that's being audited.
Okay.
So when I would audit the auditors, I mean, the bottom line is that they had a state, and this is on the federal level, they would have a statement of work that identifies, okay, these are your requirements. This is what you're supposed to do. This is the background and experience that you're supposed to have. And also the proper credentials, because again, for some of these audits, the federal government just didn't want these contractors hiring people off the street to do these very complex and very technical audits. And so you had to realize that, and this is something that I kind of learned to do when I was in law enforcement, is that when you approach somebody, 80% of the time you're not necessarily there to give them good news, or you're not there to share, very good information or information that's going to make them happy. So you would have to have that conversation and understand that, and you hear the phrase, "I'm here from the government to help. I'm here to help you." So you would want to say that, but you would have to have a very open conversation. But because of your position and because of what you're there for, you always would have to understand that the individuals are going to be a little defensive. So, and as they got defensive, one of the things that you don't do, one of the things that I didn't do when auditing these individuals was to jump back in their face. You let them talk, you let them vent, and you just kind of go through the processes of what you needed to do, and just kind of go from there. So you would have to have a very open, very candid conversation, but you're always treated that person with respect, and you just basically just did your job.
If a regular citizen has something that they think might be going wrong on a big level in the state, can they contact you?
Yeah, they can contact this office. So they can go to the website, just Google PA Auditor General, and there is a link which those individuals can make a complaint to this office, or if they would like me to speak to their groups, they can do that as well. But there are ways in which individuals, and they have ways that they can contact this office with regards to any types of complaints that they may have.
So after an audit is done, I guess the part where I think maybe a lot of people too, what happens after it? Is there enforcement? Are you the enforcement? Does it then go somewhere else after you compile all the information and complete the audit? What happens next?
Yeah, unfortunately, this office isn't the enforcement in all audits. There are some pension audits where we are the enforcer, especially some of the local and municipal audits. But for the most part, what we do is, if we have a finding, then we write out what the finding is, and then we write our recommendation, and that information then goes to the auditee, goes to the governor's office, and it goes to the state legislature. Now, one of the things that we do that this office has always done is, whenever you may have a finding where, let's say, something may need to be added to a piece of legislation, or legislation needs to be written, because of what was found, then we would work with the legislatures on legislation, so they could make sure they have the correct information in there, and why we did what we did, and how we came up with our findings. So something can be legislated, others we can take some enforcement on.
Okay. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about 2020 and all the topics that are enveloped in 2020. You have COVID. How did COVID affect your job? What was it like coming in during, I think, maybe a period of uncertainty? Because I think that there was, Governor Wolf had to make a lot of decisions that a lot of governors didn't have to make in the past. So whether it was like stay-at-home orders, or who got vouchers to be essential, the vaccine, the election, there's a lot of things in there that I think might overlap into your world that people might want an audit of. Are there things that you came in like on day one that people wanted you to focus on, and that are on the horizon that would match up with some of the issues of 2020?
Well, yeah, of course, in 2020 was quite the year, and I hope that we never see another year like it. So, during most of 2020, well, actually all of 2020, I was still Dauphin County Controller, and so we had the COVID related issues dealing with in the county. So so we had that. So going forward to where I am now, dealing with what happened in 2020. So one of the things that I talked about, and one of the things that we are this office is going to be looking at is especially when we talk about funding. There is the Paycheck Protection Plan. There's also the CARES Act, and then now you have the American Rescue Plan. And for any type of funding that and these are all federal programs. So any type of funding that goes directly from the federal government to any type of entity, whether it be a business entity, whether it be a local government, we don't have responsibility of that. That would be the Federal Inspector General's office. However, with regards to the funding from the American Rescue Plan that's coming into, and I believe it's in the neighborhood of just a little less than $8 billion that's going directly into the state's bank accounts. When those funds are released, because they are being released by the state, it would be my office's responsibility to determine if those funds were in fact being spent by the entities receiving those funds, in which the way they were meant to be spent. So so that would be my first thing is to determine, okay, are these funds, because let's face it, in the past year, we've had a lot of money coming into the Commonwealth. And the reason why these funds are coming into the Commonwealth, because there are individuals, businesses, local governments who need those funds because of the effect on COVID. And but I mean, we have to make sure that those funds go to the businesses, the individuals and other entities who really need those funds. So that's one of the things that that this office will be responsible for, is to audit on the tail end with regards to ensuring that those funds go to where they're supposed to go to. And additionally, one of the things that I talked about, and I had a press conference about this a couple of weeks ago, is that the state needs to look at on the front end on who's asking for these funds and where those funds are going to go to, and the processes involved with getting those individuals and businesses and governments, the processes involved with them asking and getting the money, ensuring that those processes are in fact in place, and ensure that somebody who doesn't deserve it, or to somebody who shouldn't receive it, they're sure that they don't in fact get those. Because as me and you are having this conversation, there are people out there now who are trying to think of ways to get at those funds. People who have no legal, are not legally entitled to receive those funds. So they're thinking about fraudulent ways how to get those funds. They're doing it right now. So we need to have a process in place to ensure that they don't get it. Because at the tail end, once they do get it, and even if these individuals are caught, prosecuted, and they are ordered to pay back restitution, we're going to get back pennies on the dollar. So once those funds are out the door, those funds are gone. So we need to make sure that we have the processes in place to assure that the right individuals and right entities are getting those funds before those funds are released.
That was going to be my next question. Is an audit always retroactive? Is it always after the fact, looking back at stuff that's already happened, or can you do things where you are preventative?
Historically, they've always been retroactive, but one of the things that I've talked about, and one of the things that I plan on doing is identifying processes, is to audit the processes. And that's called continual process improvement. Because you always have, whatever process you have, whether it's an IT process, whether it's a way of conducting business, it's a way of running a government, we have all these processes. So one of the things that we constantly have to do is to check to see if our processes that are working are in fact working. Because if we don't check, and we saw what happened with the unemployment compensation system website this time last year. We saw some other things where the computer systems that the state had just kind of fell apart. That's something that should never happen. So we constantly have to check our processes to ensure that the processes that we have in place are in fact working. Because if we don't have those checks for continual process improvement on a regular basis, eventually the processes are going to break down. And when they break down, it's going to be painful and it's going to be costly to fix those processes. And because of that, people who need whatever product that's being produced, or in some cases, they're unemployment checks. People who really need those aren't going to get them, and they're going to be the ones who are going to be hurt. So it should be up to the state to ensure that those processes are continued to be reviewed. And that's something that I've talked about numerous times in this office, and that's something that we're gonna look at throughout my administration.
That's one thing I think is always good whenever you get someone like brand new into an office. You're looking at this with a completely different set of eyes. You can kind of see maybe some room for improvement, some things that might go wrong. My question is that we were talking about kind of the office being nonpartisan. Do you ever feel like you as an auditor general could start to be used in a partisan way, like if you were to be asked to audit elections?
Well, and you're always going to have that. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's as much as we talk about transparency and bipartisanship, lately there's been some issues with regards to actually being that, and I have to be. That's something that I've talked about, something that this office is supposed to be. It's supposed to be bipartisan. I mean, one of the things that I said that I do, and I said this to legislatures in the House and the Senate on both sides of the aisle, that I will work with them with regards to anything that where they feel that my assistance is needed. But as far as being bipartisan, I plan on being bipartisan, but also I plan on working with everybody. And my main job is to follow the Pennsylvania fiscal code, and that's what I plan on doing.
Can there be a request that you audit something in particular?
Yeah, there's always requests, and I've had about 75 meetings with different senators on both sides of the aisle and House members on both sides of the aisle, and of those 75 meetings, there's about 100 requests. So and one of the things that we've talked about is that before this office does anything, we have to take a look at, okay, what exactly is it that we're being asked. And because one of the things that I don't want to do something that this office doesn't have the responsibility to audit, or I don't want to audit something where it may seem to be purely political in nature. I want to do stick with the core responsibilities of this office, and that's to ensure that Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars are being spent the way in which they were supposed to be spent. And that means everybody.
Could you ever flip that? Is the Office of Auditor General able to audit any portion of the legislature?
Yeah, that's something that's come up a few times. Right now, there isn't any the legislature looks a little different. So right now, there really isn't any mechanism for this office to audit the legislature. And as of right now, I don't know if that's something is going to happen. I mean, I'm sure the legislators within themselves, within their own caucuses, have had conversations about that. I have not, talked to any legislatures specifically about that as well. So right now there really isn't a plan to do that, and also this office really does not have the legal authority to do that as well.
So just give us a run on your life again. So anyone listening to us, any last words that you want to say? We have 11 minutes, and I wanted people to truly get to know you and get to benefit from your journey So any word of wisdom before Heather asks her fun questions?
Yes, so no, the first would be, it's life is beautiful, but you're gonna go through, you're gonna have some challenges, and embrace those challenges, learn from those challenges. But if there's something that you want to do, something that you're passionate about, go for it and block out any other noise that you're gonna hear. I mean, you may get detoured with regards to some things that you want to do, but stay focused, never stop learning, and understand what it is that you're doing, but also understand that at the end of the day, there's something waiting for you that's great, and you may not know what it is right now. I may not know what it is, but that's something that's waiting for you.
That's true, because I mean, you're talking about not really having wanted to have run a state wide election, not liking math, and now you're here as like the Auditor General. So I couldn't agree more.
Never imagined it.
Yeah.
Never.
So we like to ask our guests, and I think you'll be game to end the show with kind of a lightning round, questions about your job, questions about you, and just kind of give us a sense of where you're at. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Sure, let's go for it.
All right. So I think I know the answer to this because it was going to be a hack related question, but you kind of said the answer already. What was a class that you took that really had, or a teacher that you had that really made an impact on you that you remember to this day?
Criminal justice, Patrick Hopkins.
Oh, shoot. Okay. All right. Why?
Because he's the one who challenged me academically.
Excellent. Excellent. So you have run a statewide race. And so what was a town or a place that you went to in Pennsylvania that surprised you?
Oh man, Erie.
Why?
Because I got there, I was going to spend 2 days there, and we were just trying to figure out a schedule. And I was supposed to go to like an event one evening, and it ended up being, I talked to every news outlet in Erie, was on all 3 TV channels in Erie, and they just treated me like I was the president of the United States.
I'll go to Erie too. If
What
that's
did
the
I
way they
say
treat
to you?
everybody.
Yeah. And so,
What did I say to you before the beginning of the show?
oh yeah.
I can see you, you have the look for it, you have the
Yeah.
demeanor, you have the brain, and you definitely have the setup now for it too.
Thank you. But it was they were one. I mean, the whole state was embraced me. But I never forget that trip to Erie.
Good answer. So statewide race, what is one of your best meals across the state?
Oh, one of my best meals. Oh, geez, I had so many. Oh, when I was in Philadelphia, I had never been to Geno's or Pat's. Normally my spot is Jimmy's on South Street. That's my go-to spot. But I went to Geno's and Pat's for the first time.
And it lived up to the hype?
It lived up to the hype.
Mm-hmm. What about, you're a Susquehanna Township guy. What about in Susquehanna Township? Best meal here. What are we missing out on?
In Susquehanna Township, oh my God. Hate to say this, I don't eat in a lot of, when I eat in Susquehanna Township, I go to Macaroni Grill.
Okay. You know what?
Grill in your place. So those.
Oh yeah.
Those are my spots.
Nice. Who influenced you? Was your mom?
Yeah, both of my parents.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad died in 2003, but both of my parents, as far as what I needed internally to do this job, both of my parents gave that to me. So hats off to them.
Who would win in a Star Wars trivia game? You or Eugene D. Pasquale?
I was wondering if you're gonna ask that.
Eugene is an amateur compared to me.
Oh, let me tag Eugene now.
He is an amateur.
Wow. Okay.
He knows it.
Okay, we're gonna have Eugene at the end of the month, so you are invited too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe that should be our lightning round. Just some, really obscure, Yeah,
Yes,
do you judge those of us that have no knowledge on Star Wars?
I do not judge. As a matter of fact, you can't see it because it's behind me, but I actually have a Darth Vader's lightsaber that was made from the original mold from his lightsaber in Empire Strikes Back.
Why Darth
It's
Vader? Just
behind-
because he's cool? Or should I read into that?
No, it's, well, depends on who you ask.
You have to
So,
know.
You know,
I
so but
am
it's
like,
cool. I mean, anybody with the James Earl Jones voice, the black cape and the red lightsaber.
I get it. I understand. Yeah, even the layman, I get it. Yeah, yeah.
You
Okay,
know,
last question. In general, what excites you right now? What are you excited about? What are you looking forward to in the coming months in 2021?
future. The future.
Really making that Auditor General office home.
Yeah. And making it home yeah, making it home. So, but yeah, the future, without a doubt.
Excellent. Well, you have been a delight. You're absolutely exceptional, amazing, obviously so qualified. We're so glad that you won your election. We're so glad that you were here with us today. Do you want to just say one last word to the viewers?
No, keep watching the Hagir Show. I watch it.
that's like a testament. We are like honored to hear that and to have you. I mean, I've been looking forward to having this show because I know there is a lot that you can offer and there is a lot that you can truly give to everyone who's listening to us. Heather, you have some last question. I think you said you wanted to ask. I'm trying to get my video here up, but we can never get enough of you.
Yeah. So, you know what my question is when you meet people, like when I would tell my friends, like, I'm going to interview the Auditor General, I'm kind of like a local politic nerd. That means so much to me. Do you have to describe your job to people a lot? Do they understand that it's statewide? Do they understand what you do? Because I feel like it's a little bit, even though it's very powerful, I feel like it's mysterious.
Yeah, I do describe it a lot. I do because not I want people to understand what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So and there are a lot of people who may not know. So but yes, I do find myself describing the job, which is fine with me.
Yeah, it's an education.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I just want to thank you again for coming and for always being there. I don't remember I ever asked you for a favor and you said no, you're a busy man. And that just shows how amazing, awesome you are. And for all our viewers, if you don't know who is Timothy DeFoor, I have his link up there. We have his website. Learn about him. And show your sons, show your daughters, show anyone that you think can benefit from his experience. He's truly an inspiration and a role model to many. And I'm honored to know you and call you a friend.
Thank you, Gio.
No doubt.
Likewise. Love you to death. Thank you.
Love you more. You know that.